Chris? Hey man, what's up? In one of the latest videos we asked them about if they want to see a full video on Stonewash, and actually they're really interested in it, so are we going to do it? Yeah, let's just show them how to make a Stonewash finish. I'm the king of it. Hey guys, we're back in the workshop, and today I have kind of a build video for you, but also a deep dive into how I do my Stonewash. I get a lot of questions about how I do my Stonewash, and today I just want to show you some surface finishes that you can apply to darken your steel down, and also some surface textures that also you can apply on some Stonewash, which gives you a great effect. So luckily I still got some blanks from my old Hydra model, which were made out of 01 tool steel, and 01 tool steel or carbon steels in general, they really get darkened down by the acid that we're using later on. And this is also the new model, so we got some cutouts right here, and you can see this one just has a lanyard hole right on the back, and this is for another video. So let's get started with that. I've also scribed some center lines now because the knives are now ready to be ground for the preheat treatment grind. I don't want to grind them too thinly because I don't want them to warp during the heat treatment. The knives are now nearly ready for the heat treatment, and I've quickly sandblasted them to get rid of all the blue dicam and all that kind of stuff, because I'm going to spray them with that Scale X, and this actually protects the steel from decarburization and from scale building up on the steel. So this stuff is really nice, and you can get that at handlematerials.at, and it works really well for carbon steels. Before we're going to apply it, we have to really shake it up well. So the knives are now tempering, and I've actually got a really cool banner from handlematerials.at, and I'm just thinking about where I should hang it. Because I've got this wall is free right here, and also you see a lot of video shots right in front of this wall. And I've got this section right here, but I don't shoot videos on there. And I've also got this dirty wall in my grinding room, but this one is already covered with like water jet cuts, and I don't want that banner to get super dirty. So tell me in the comments if I should mount that banner right behind me, and maybe which other banners I should also mount into my workshop. And they also sent me a t-shirt with their brand on and some stickers. And I'm really glad that I have guys like that that support me. The knives are now hardened and tempered, so now I want to jump to my belt grinder and finish up the bevel grinding on these knives. So now that the bevels are ground, I want to jump to my horizontal grinder. And no, you don't need two grinders. If you just get one grinder that you can flip, you can do the same thing. And I want to add the rock pattern on two knives because I want to show you how you can also achieve the rock pattern on bare steel. And that's also a really cool finish, especially with Stonewash. So one of the most common questions I get, which grit size I'm using, and I'm using 120 grit ceramic belts. For steel, they can be a little bit worn. For my Kato or G10, I'm always using fresh belts because that material tends to burn sometimes when you're using worn belts. So when you're grinding the rock pattern right into the steel, what I like to do is I'm always grinding one notch, lift the knife up just a little bit, grinding the second notch, and then move from that to the rest of the knife because you don't want to slip over to the other notch because then you're rounding out those high areas, and we want to have those sharp angles on that rock pattern because that just looks a little bit nicer and gives us that nice rock pattern look. So when I start moving on the flats of the knife, and then I'm turning around the knife 90 degrees, doing the sides of the knife, and then I can feather everything in. So now the knives are ready for the stonewash, and the first step that I do for my knives is I sandblast them, and that just gives me a uniform surface on the knife. You don't have to sandblast those knives, but when I'm grinding, sometimes especially on the carbon steel, they maybe sometimes have some small rust stains from pulling the knife down, and I just want to get rid of any kind of oils, rust and all that kind of stuff, and I want to have a nice uniform surface so the acid can later darken down that steel really well. So the knives are now sandblasted, and you could also leave them like that and have like a lighter stonewash and now just stonewash them, but I want to have dark stonewash. So what I like to do is then I have to degrease them just to be safe, so you don't have any kind of fingerprints or oil stains on the knife when you're putting them into the acid. And I'm just using some isopropyl alcohol. You can use acetone, whatever you want. So with these rock pattern knives, I want to use the Ferro Chloride because I just want to show you two methods on how you can darken down your steel. And I'm using Ferric Chloride or Eisenchlorid in German, and we are just going to submerge them into the acid. I always got a handy toothbrush. I'm using that at night for brushing my teeth, and then later on in the morning for my Ferric Chloride. So I always like to stir it up, and then just going to place them in there. And then what I like to do is, because sometimes some bubbles are on the knife itself, and then you get like circled non-edged areas because air is trapped around it, and then I'm just going to quickly brush them with my toothbrush right here. Then I'm just going to leave them in there for, let's say, 10 minutes roughly, and I have a mixture of Ferro Chloride, water of roughly let's say 60% Ferric Chloride and 40% of water. And you should always wear gloves because it is an acid and you don't want to have that on your hands. And now, while the other knives are in the ferric chloride, I also want to show you how you can use Gunbluing or Schnellbrunierung in German. And this one also works really well, but it doesn't work on stainless steel, so that just works on carbon steels. And you also want to wear some gloves for that. And the knife is also degreased. And I also have some Windex or glass cleaner for neutralizing it, because if you leave those acids on too long, it will appear as rust, or there will be corrosion on the surface of the knife. So this stuff turns your knife really dark down. Some guys use steel wool, I don't have any here. And that stuff smells like, I don't know, it smells horrible, and you can see it now. So now I have this stuff here, and you can see it if I'm applying it, it already turns super black. But it also gives you some colorations of blue, bronzy color, so you don't have like a completely blackened out finish. I kind of use it sometimes if the surfaces of the knife is not completely clean. Like for this example on this one, I didn't surface ground the flats of the knife, and when you have your scale build up during the heat treatment and all that carburization, the ferric chloride doesn't etch really well. So therefore I'm using the Gunbluing, because that will blacken everything, no matter if there is any kind of scale build up during the heat treatment. And now the knife is black. I'm just going to use some Windex right here. Then to neutralize everything, I have some WD-40 right here, and I'm just going to spritz everything down really well. That's it for this knife. So now I'm actually on the floor of my etching area, and I've got a bucket full of water right here, and I've also got some glass cleaner or Windex, and I also have a bucket full of WD-40, because I don't like to rinse off my ferric chloride knives under fresh water, and that acid goes straight into those pipelines and gets maybe dumped somewhere else. I don't want to put any kind of acid into the system, so I always have a bucket full of water. And when I'm done, I've got like my empty canisters of WD-40, and then I'm just going to dump that water into those canisters and give them to a recycling area where they can deal with that. And I've also got another toothbrush right here. So I'm going to grab those knives out of the acid, and then we're going to clean them up. So put them into the water, and then the first step is I'm just going to really cleanly brush them with my toothbrush right here, and I just want to get rid of all the oxidization on the blade itself. Then I'm going to spritz them down with some Windex, and this bottle is nearly empty, but it still works. And that just helps to neutralize the acid on the knife. And to stop that etching process, I'm going to throw them into my WD-40 bucket, and it's just easier, instead of like also spritzing it down and the water is full with oil, I just have that bucket right next to me, so I can just dump it in, especially when I do like 10 to 15 knives at a time. I can just leave them in there and don't have to think about that much about it. So this one is good, just a quick spritz down. This one goes into WD-40. And when they are out of the acid and out of the WD-40, just like to take a paper towel and just clean them off, and then also oil them up again, especially with carbon steels, because they can accumulate sometimes some rust on them or some stains, and we don't want to have that to happen, because you can see that black stuff is still coming off. I'm going to quickly give them another WD-40 on them so they are protected. For my stonewash, I'm using basic gravel, which you can get at Home Depot and all those stores, and also some ceramic pyramids. They have like an edge length 1 centimeter to 1 centimeter. There are different sizes and different media, but I think this stuff works really well. And I just dumped them in here and let them run for, let's say, 10 minutes.
A few moments later.
So the knives are sharp and the stonewash is finished, and I love stonewash. It is such a nice finish because you can play around in the light with it and you see those really nice reflections of the stonewash, and it's just a really cool finish, and I think it's also a really nice working finish. For example, you have like a really high polished knife and you get a scratch in it, it kind of bothers you and you have to polish it out. With the stonewash, if you get another scratch on the knife, it doesn't really matter because there are already thousands of scratches in the knife, and it's just a really nice working finish, and I really do love it, and it just fits to the knives that I make. Stonewash is not for every knife, but for those knives that I build, I really love that finish, and it really suits my knives. So guys, this is the end of this video. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and we'll see us next Friday. The king of stonewash, praise me, praise him.